Hi, welcome back to Music Theory for Beginners, taught by a beginner. My name is Brian, and I will be your, I guess instructor is what you could call it. Anyway, this is episode 2 of the Music Theory Basics for Beginners by a Beginner series. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about the minor scale in comparative to the major scale. Now, the minor scale is like the minor scale is like the major scale, but it kind of sounds sad, and it kind of brings out a different type of sound to a lot of music, so it's favored by a lot of musicians for different reasons. So we talked about in the last episode about the major scale formula, which was whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. And we also talked about the alphabet of music, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G repeating at A. We also brushed up on accidentals like sharps and flats, which I think I didn't discuss flats well enough, so we'll talk about that today. Now, there's a few things that differentiate between minor and major. With minor, the setup instead of whole step, half step, whole step, half step is instead whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So it's a bit of a different formula here, and it achieves a different sound than a major scale. When you're constructing a minor scale, it's the same as the major scale. You select a note. For simplicity's sake, we're going to go with A. So say you choose A to construct a scale with. If you were to construct a major scale with it, then you would use this formula, the major scale formula. You wouldn't count the note A as one of your whole steps. Okay, so you kind of just take this formula and move everything after A, but it's still kind of based on A, if that makes sense. So whole step from A, so A, whole step right there. B, whole step from B is C sharp, because remember, B to C is one half step. So we just went one over it by doing a whole step, because a whole step is two half steps. So you got C sharp there. So we have whole step, we can cross those two off the list. Half step, D, cross that off the list. Whole step, E. Sorry. So we have whole step, half step, whole step, which would be F sharp. Whole step one more time. Oh yeah, remember, E to F is also like B to C. E to F, one half step in between, not a whole step like other notes. Remember the anagram, big cats eat fast? That's what you want to use that for. So we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, and F sharp for our A major scale. So let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have another whole step, which would go to G, skip, and then go to G sharp. And then from here we have one more half step, which would lead us back to A. And there we go, our A major scale. Now, if you were to construct a minor scale, you would use this formula, which is slightly different. So again, you want to start on A. You want a whole step from A to B. Okay, so that's one whole step down. You want a half step from B to C, because remember, B to C. And then you also want to whole step from C, which would be D. Whole step again, E. Half step, which would be F. Whole step one more time, which would be G. Whole step one more time, which would be A. Now, minor is interesting because whereas major has about one variation roughly, minor has 3 different variations. Minor's got 3 variations. Now, these variations are called natural minor, which is the exact same thing that we just did here. This is natural minor. It's using this formula up here. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Excuse me. Among other things, we have harmonic minor, and we also have melodic minor. Don't know why I wrote this in the middle and left a space in the middle. I don't know why. Let's just roll with it. So with natural minor, you have this regular pattern, this pattern right here. And this is what it looks like. And you know, it's fine. It sounds a little basic and whatnot. Kind of sounds like, let me just grab my guitar here. If we were to play in A major scale, sorry, not A major, A minor. So it kind of sounds a little darker than if you were to play something like an A major scale, which would kind of sound like. Compared to A minor. So that's natural minor. Now, alright, gonna have to pull a little jump cut right there. Anyway, so that was the sound of natural minor. Now, harmonic minor is the thing that I should have listed next, but I accidentally listed melodic. So harmonic minor is exactly like natural minor. So say we have the A minor scale again, it's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. Well, I guess A doesn't really have to be included because it just repeats. Anyway, so with harmonic minor, it's the exact same as natural minor, except the 7th degree, sorry, is raised by 1 half step. So the 7th degree would be, the 7th degree is just a fancy way of saying the 7th note that comes in the scale. So this would be note 1, this would be note 2, this would be note 3, this would be note 4, 5, 6, and 7. Number 8 would be A, but that would count as an octave. So you don't have to put that down, but you can. Now, to make it so we're looking at natural minor right here. To make it a harmonic minor, however, we need to raise the 7th by a half step. And then we all know what happens when we raise G by a half step. It doesn't go to A, because in between G to A is G sharp. So now, what this formula would look like as harmonic minor instead of natural minor is A, B, C, D, E, F, G sharp. And then repeating at A. And that is pretty much all there is to harmonic minor. A little demonstration of what this kind of sounds like. So this would be A major. This would be A minor. A natural minor anyway. Now, this would be a harmonic minor. Kind of sounds a little more Middle Eastern. is harmonic minor in comparison to natural minor. Now that we have that out of the way, it's time to move on to melodic minor. Melodic minor is, well, you guessed it, the same as natural minor, except this time both the 6th and the 7th are raised a half step. Now, this gives it kind of a sweeter sound, despite still being technically minor. So if we were to rewrite a natural minor as a melodic minor, don't let the words melodic and harmonic scare you. Just think harmonic, you raise the 7th by a half step. Melodic, you raise the 6th and the 7th by a half step. So harmonic, you raise the one at the very end before it repeats by a half step. Melodic, you raise the second to last and the last before it repeats, if that makes sense. So to rewrite this as melodic minor, we would, instead of writing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we would write A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp. And that is melodic minor. To demonstrate what that sounds like, I won't bother running through all the other scales that I just played. So melodic minor, let's see. Melodic minor in comparison to regular minor. So that was natural minor that I just played. And now I will be playing harmonic minor. It's kind of got a sweeter taste. Well, not literally, but okay, you get the point. And now to touch on the concept of flats. So I've been using these sharp symbols to describe everything that's in between these whole notes. For example, instead of A to B would be A sharp, and then B, because A sharp sits in between A to B. And of course, that's why we went over whole steps and half steps last episode. However, A sharp, in between A to B, there's A sharp, so A sharp, and B. But there's also something else, or should I say the exact same thing, just written in a different way in between A and B. For example, instead of writing A sharp, and B, I could instead write A, B flat, and then B. Now, these are the exact same thing. A sharp and B flat are the same thing. And this goes for every other sharp to minor, sharp to flat type of deal that there is. So this would work for pretty much anything. So in between all the notes, if we went in a completely chromatic scale, remember chromatic just meaning in order completely, we'd have A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp. However, if I were to write this using flats, I would write it as A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G flat, G, and A flat. Now, what does this all mean? Well, this is just showing you that these are the same thing. Flats refer to, say, if I were to say it's a B flat, it would be a B value, so it would be B, but it would be lowered by a half step with the symbol to accompany it. This symbol just means that whenever note you're playing is lowered by a half step. So for example, if I were to play a B, that would be a B. A B flat would just be this. Now if I were to play an A and play A sharp, it would be the same as B flat. So we have A, we have B, we have B flat, which is also A sharp in between. This is what is called enharmonics, spelled enharmonics, meaning that A sharp and B flat are practically interchangeable. Same thing with C sharp and D flat. Or let's say, or sorry, not C sharp and D flat, sorry. Or say C sharp and D flat, yeah, okay. C sharp and D flat, those would also be interchangeable because they're the same thing, just written differently. Same thing with E flat and D sharp. Same thing. Or F sharp and G flat. Same thing. All right. I think that just about covers it for today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Music Theory Basics, taught by a beginner. For beginners. Sorry, this is being super awkward. Anyway, have a nice rest of your evening, or morning, or night, or whatever you're doing right now. So, hope you learned something.